Hi, I'm Melissa, and I'd like to welcome you to The Authentic Voice, a space for women ready to own their strength, find their voice, and rewrite their stories. Today, we're talking about practical strategies to dropping those shoulds, setting gentle boundaries, and finally learning to live life on your terms. Have you ever caught yourself saying yes to something only to instantly feel a knot tighten in your stomach? Or found yourself sitting in a room full of people agreeing with an opinion you don't actually hold just to keep the peace? We've all been there. Somewhere between growing up, trying to fit in, and managing everyday life, it's remarkably easy to quiet our true selves just to avoid making waves. But living on autopilot eventually wears us down. So, if you've been feeling a little disconnected from who you actually are, you don't need a total life overhaul. Sometimes finding your authentic self just comes down to paying attention to a few key signals. Here are three steps to help you tune back in. Number one, notice your triggers. When we live out of alignment with who we are, our minds and our bodies usually try to warn us. Pay attention to feelings like sudden anger, simmering resentment, or that deep, bone tired exhaustion that sleep doesn't seem to fix. More often than not, those emotions pop up when we're forcing ourselves to fit into a mold that was never built for us. Take a moment to think about your day to day life. Then ask yourself, when do you feel your absolute best? Who are you with? What are you doing? Where are you? And when do you feel drained or uncomfortable? Which environments or social expectations leave you feeling depleted? For the longest time, I completely ignored these signals in my own life. Back in my late teens and early 20s, my friends were constantly inviting me to join in on recreational things like volleyball games. Here's the truth. I am the exact opposite of athletic. Every single time I played, I felt awkward, clumsy, and miserable. I'm the type of volleyball player that ducks and covers my head when the ball is coming at me. It made me feel like an outsider. I just didn't fit in with everybody else. It wasn't until my early 30s that the light bulb finally went off for me. I just don't enjoy athletic things. And more importantly, that is perfectly okay. I'm much more of a bookworm, and owning that cleared away so much unnecessary self doubt. These days, if a friend asks me to be their tennis partner, I kindly decline and offer to cheer them on from the sidelines with a cold drink in hand instead. Living authentically doesn't mean changing who you are to what everyone else likes. It means giving yourself permission to like what you like. Number two, pinpoint what truly matters to you. Once you start noticing where that friction is, turn your attention to your core values. What actually matters to you at this stage of your life? Is it quiet reflection, deep one on one conversations, creativity, flexibility, or stability? Once you name those core values, I want you to hold them up like a mirror to your current routine. And then I want you to ask yourself, what parts of your life are in alignment? The activities, your habits, your relationships that feel effortless and nourishing. And then the opposite of that, what parts are out of alignment? Those are the obligations that you find yourself dragging yourself to, or the roles you're playing just to keep up appearances or make other people happy. When you see the gaps between what you value and how you're living, You don't have to fix everything overnight. Just acknowledging that mismatch is the very first step towards bringing things back into balance. Number three, be more honest, both with yourself and with others. Radical authenticity requires honesty. And for a long time, I was terrified of what that meant. For most of my life, I was a chronic people pleaser. I never wanted to make waves, so I would just really agree with people because it seemed easier, nicer, and frankly, safer. But over time, I realized that not an agree habit meant that I wasn't being honest with others or, probably more importantly, with myself. And frankly, it just didn't feel good. Early in our relationship, my husband gently pointed this out to me. At first, I was worried that speaking my mind would come off as mean or disagreeable. But as I slowly took small, brave steps towards sharing my true thoughts about things, I realized something wonderful. You can actually disagree with somebody in a polite, considerate way. Now, instead of biting my tongue, I'll often say something like, actually, I see it a little differently. And then I'll proceed to explain my version of what we were discussing. That tiny phrase completely changes the room. It stops a surface level exchange in its tracks and really opens the door for a more genuine, meaningful conversation. Sadly, it took me years to really understand this, but relationships can never grow past the superficial mark if we don't bring our authentic selves to the table. Sure, not everybody will agree with you. Some people might not even like your honest perspective, but really that's okay. I've reached a point in my life where I would far rather have a few deeply authentic, genuine friendships than to have a crowded room full of superficial ones. Start small in your own life. First, be honest with yourself. Admit to yourself what you actually like, dislike, need, and want without judgment. And then be honest with others. Practice expressing your true thoughts or setting gentle, clear boundaries. No thank you is a complete sentence. But even a soft, honest perspective honors both you and the connection. When you stop pretending to be a version of yourself that doesn't exist, you actually free up an immense amount of energy to nurture the person who does. I'm going to say that again. When you stop pretending to be a version of yourself that doesn't exist, you free up an immense amount of energy to nurture the person who does. Finding your authentic self isn't a destination you arrive at once and for all. It's an ongoing conversation with yourself. It's a lifelong journey. This week, I would like you to pick just one area where you feel a bit of friction or where you've been holding back your true opinion about something. Ask yourself, am I doing this or saying this because it honors who I am? Or am I really just trying to fit in? You might be surprised by how much lighter you feel the moment you finally become honest. Before we go, I want to leave you with this week's permission slip. Permission to stop performing for other people's comfort and gently step into who you actually are. You can find the digital copy of that permission slip and all the links in the show notes for today's episode. I'm Melissa Ann Palmer, and remember, your voice is the most authentic thing you own. I'll see you next time.